Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. What about you?
Good. Thank you. Hi, Michael, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Oh, you got to go home, Michael.
Yeah, I don't, my computer doesn't have a camera at work, so.
Oh,
Oh, well.
gee, that's too bad. You have to go home. That works out well.
Yeah, for the time being.
That's good. We won't push that through very quickly.
And I mean, I don't know how long she's gonna keep. Well, hopefully they do it for a while because it seems to work out. But I don't know how long the governor is going to continue to approve.
They were talking about keeping hybrid meetings.
I think which would be helpful, especially for people who. But even like in Foster, sometimes it snows. We have to there were a few meetings that I turned around. I couldn't make it. So it's helpful. For a public hearing, I know that makes it hard, but for other things, I think it's probably gives more people access.
Yeah, on the meetings I've been on, they've been saying that the hybrid meetings, they want to keep those going.
I think a lot of the new technology is going to stay in place. Like they're talking about keeping the WebEx, like the web hearings for court. So
yeah,
should be interesting.
It will be.
Are you sick, Denise? Are you all right?
Yeah, I spent the vacation with my grandkids and they all had runny noses and they wanted me to hug and with them. And so you just get the snot noses. Sorry. Don't know any other way to say it, but the snot noses get on you and then you're sick. So have you gotten to Black Island yet, Joanna?
I was there when we were, I think I talked to you. I was there.
Oh, I thought I saw that you were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I hear like they're shutting it down and now so I'm glad I went when I went.
Yes, they're suing the council.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, because they did I mean, I will say, even when I got off the boat and people go to that bar that's right up, it looked a lot busier than I've ever seen. And I did notice on certain beaches that there were, I feel old saying this, but a lot of like young kids just especially at that Mohegan, the Bluffs, just there was at least, I don't know, 30 of them. And they were definitely all drinking and they were young. And I think they were probably, I don't think they were 21, although I feel like people, I can't gauge as well.
You look 21 to me, so go ahead.
So I'm like, these people look 12, but they were definitely young and they were all drinking. And those bad accidents that happened there were like underage kids, but it was, so some areas were a lot more crowded than others.
Yeah, well, the small businesses or the businesses are suing the town council because of the restrictions they put in place.
Yeah.
So.
But they don't have a hospital. If people get sick, it's a nightmare. What are people going to do?
Yep. You've got to be med backed out.
How are you?
Good.
Hi, Anthony.
How's it going? Who's suing the town council, Denise?
And not Foster, New Shoreham.
Oh, okay.
You were getting excited. You're going to sign on, Anthony.
I was getting all pumped up there for a minute.
All excited. No, Block Island. They're suing the town council.
Yeah, well, the town council shut down all the bars and restaurants.
Right. They put restrictions in place and stuff, so. Yeah.
So we're still waiting for, who we got?
We don't have a quorum right now.
We don't know.
Lynn, I like your, it's a different view tonight.
Oh, you're still on mute.
Yeah. Yes, my husband is in the other room eating, so I am relegated to the living room.
Oh, I thought you had a Wednesday night view, a Thursday night view.
Oh, yeah. No, no, not at all.
How
Now, I have
are
a
you, Mike?
question for Joanna. I got I'm, well, probably going to be called for jury duty. They're doing that in person now, or are we going to be doing it Zoom?
So was it state or federal?
It was district. It said federal district court. I
So
don't know what
that's
that means.
so that's the federal court for the District of Rhode Island. I think that they're doing Zoom. I do not believe that they're doing in person.
What
So-
is Cheryl Horst doing?
She's
Cheryl Horst
also
is
doing
going-
federal. That's what she's doing federal. Does she have
But
to actually
Right,
she's
but
going-
she has, I think she has to go, doesn't
She
she?
goes.
She's doing,
but
yeah,
she
she's doing, what do you call
grand
it when you're
jury.
on there for a year?
Yeah, so
Grand
she's
jury.
doing federal grand jury. So that's different than just jury duty for a regular federal court hearing. From every email that I've gotten, our federal District of Rhode Island is completely virtual, that people aren't going in. So
Can I still put in for parking? I don't think so.
maybe your internet bill though,
My internet, yeah, that'll do
right?
it. Maybe, you know,
My mother got
They're
called for
using it.
jury.
No, I don't think I'm on.
My mother got called for jury. She's 90 years old. So my father went on and filled out the form and said, "You're exempt because you're too old." She was pissed. And she called me up. "Denise, they're saying I'm too old." I'm going, "Ma, they don't want you." She's got a walker. She can't hear anything. She doesn't understand everything that's being said. I said, "Ma, go with the 90.
How do I get on?
Don't worry about it."
With the, I mean, honestly, a defense attorney
What?
in a criminal case might want her. You'd be
Yeah.
happy if she didn't understand and, you know, not guilty.
David, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, can't see you.
How do I get on?
Hit the
Hi,
video.
how are you?
There
Hit
should
the
be a
video.
video. Yeah, there should be a video. That's Warren. Warren, you're muted.
Well, I'm going to mute myself.
I'm gonna mute.
Can you
David,
hear me?
Yeah,
We need to see you, David.
No, I know.
there should be a video button on the bottom left-hand side of your screen.
No.
We need four for, there you go, David.
Oh,
There you go.
We need four for a quorum, right, Joanna?
yeah.
Okay. So we do have four, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we'll call the meeting to order, August 19th, 7 o'clock. Actually, it's 7:04 PM. Call to order. So we'll need a roll call. Do I do it, or you, Michael, or the secretary who's not here?
I'll do it. Anthony.
You want me to do it?
No, I
Oh,
said
yeah,
I'll
no,
do
yeah, okay, I'm here, Michael.
it. Anthony. Mike.
Yes,
Warren.
present.
David.
here.
And we're missing George, Helen, and that's it, right? Am I missing somebody?
No, George and Helen.
George and Helen, okay. Joanna, you look like you want to say something?
No, no.
Okay.
I thought we were missing one more person, but
Yeah, we're short. We need to have somebody appointed to the.
yeah, that's fine. I'm like, there's another, yeah.
That's why I stumbled too. I was thinking,
Like, am I forgetting somebody? That would be awful.
that's why I felt bad immediately. But yeah, okay. So roll call. Minutes. We don't have minutes. Only because I just forgot to list the date of the minutes that we have. But at the next meeting, we'll be all caught up with minutes. We'll have March 4th as well as August 5th as well as this meeting. So we'll be good to go at the next meeting for minutes.
Okay, any correspondence? Anyone have any correspondence, anything to bring forward? Okay,
I didn't have anything. The only thing I just forwarded to the board today was just something from Helen. She had forwarded along for the item number F on the agenda, but we'll get to that.
Anthony,
yes, sir.
if I may, I just sent Mike an email, which he probably hasn't got yet because you haven't had time, but I took, when he attached Helen's, not, the attachment to the meeting announcement that included the revised prohibited uses,
Yeah.
Yep,
obviously indicates that we have some more work to do to add some items and change some items to special use. So I took a couple of hours and the zoning ordinance, and I linked the work to be done by special use addition and or special use classification and or addition. I linked them to the actual use table by reference to the use table 38-191 and reference to the page on which that item appeared, which is that CD number 20 through 27 or whatever, and title. So Mike, you'll get that as an attachment to my email,
Okay.
and hopefully when you feel it's appropriate to add that to the agenda to clean up that prohibited use work.
Okay.
I think everybody has a copy of the zoning ordinance.
They should.
Yeah, they should. And if you don't, you can certainly get one. Right, if you bring your copy of the zoning ordinance and you bring that worksheet, we can go right from the items that need to be looked at to the page number in the zoning use table, and hopefully that'll speed things up during the workshop.
Yeah. So are we, Anthony, are we starting item number E? That's kind of what Mike's talking about. Well, it is what Mike's talking about, which is the prohibited use table.
yep.
Okay. So yeah, that's good. I haven't, go ahead, Joanna.
Do we just want to reflect that George is here?
Oh,
Just for
yep.
purposes of the minutes.
Yep, I wrote down that he joined, but yeah, George joined at 7:08.
Thank you. I had technical difficulty. I didn't notice the link on the agenda.
No worries.
That's fine. We just got started. I was gonna say, yeah, Mike, I haven't seen your email yet, but obviously I'll get it. I'll take a look at it. I'll send it around. And so I'd put on item letter E of the revised prohibited uses, just because I didn't know. I just thought we should kind of touch base on that before we continue on. What we had done at the last meeting is you guys went through all the prohibited uses listed in the zoning ordinance, and you kind of checked some off, and I provided a breakdown of what I thought that conversation reflected, and I sent that along. I don't have a digital copy on my computer here, so I can't screen share it. So has everybody taken a look at that? I just wanted to make sure that it was a good summation of what.
Yeah, Michael, do you want to just do the ones that are in question? Everything else we agreed on.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay. I had a question mark next to dormitories. I
Yeah.
wasn't positive on where we landed on dormitories. Was that to be removed from the prohibited list, or was that supposed to be special use permit?
Removed.
Just removed at this time, and are we making it a future agenda item?
My note just says remove.
Okay.
Okay, that's one of the references I made to the use table. And under zoning 38-191, under residential uses, and in both items 6 and 7, okay, that issue is somewhat addressed. So we might want to look at that before we remove that or eliminate that one.
Okay, so you just want to have a further conversation about that.
Yeah, in fact,
Okay.
if you want, I've got the zoning ordinance with me. I can look it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we do. Anthony, do you want me to do that, or?
let's just get it out of the way and we'll see where we go, and then we'll just,
Because on 191, if you go to that page reference for dormitories, which is 22.2, and you look at 6 and 7, okay, under residential uses, and that's residential uses at the bottom of that page is a total of 7 items. We were talking dormitory and not really getting a grip on what the heck do they mean by that.
Yep.
And if you look at the actual zoning uses, as I said, under 38-191, bottom of the page, CD 38-22-2, under item 6, it says community residences and family daycare homes.
Yeah.
Which that is something that is a special use permit in both it's permitted in agricultural residential and a special use in neighborhood commercial and general business mixed use. And then surprisingly, on item 7, lodging, guest house, or bed and breakfast is permitted under special use under agricultural residential. It is allowed in neighborhood commercial and general business mixed use, and as a special use permit in manufacturing and industrial. So maybe Joanne can take a look at that when she has time and give us an opinion as to whether we should just drop the dormitory category or whether we should reference what we've already got in zoning.
We do have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joanna.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to note quickly that we do have a definition, surprisingly, for community residence in our definitions in the zoning ordinance. It's a pretty lengthy definition. So do you want me to read that, or you guys want to go over it? Okay. So for community residence means a home or residential facility where children and or adults reside in a family setting and may or may not receive supervised care. This shall not include halfway houses or substance abuse treatment facilities. This shall include, but not limited to, the following. Whenever 6 or few retarded children or adults reside in any type of residence in the community as licensed by the state pursuant to General Law 1956, section yada yada, all use requirements pertaining to the local zoning are waived for those community residences. Number 2, and there's 4 of these, a group home providing care or supervision or both to not more than 8 mentally disabled or mentally handicapped or physically handicapped persons and licensed by the state. 3, a residence for children providing care or supervision or both to not more than 8 children, including those of the caregiver and licensed by the state. Number 4, a community transitional residence providing care or assistance or both to no more than 6 unrelated persons or no more than 3 families, not to exceed a total of 8 persons, requiring temporary financial assistance and or to persons who are victims of crimes, abuse, neglect, and who are expected to reside in that residence not less than 60 days nor more than 2 years. Residents will have access to and use all common areas, including eating areas and living rooms, and will receive appropriate social services for the purpose of fostering independence, self-sufficiency, and eventual transition to permanent living situation.
So, I mean, those are essentially group homes, DV type shelters, but more like transitional housing for usually the domestic violence victims, but a bunch of things that we kind of have to allow under statute. That's what
Right.
those are. The dormitories are, I think we talked about if there was a school, or sometimes there are like work dormitory lodging and stuff like that. So I do not believe that either of those are allowed under our ordinance as is. So you can either remove it from prohibited uses altogether, and there still doesn't appear to be an avenue for somebody to build that type of thing. or you have to define it and decide if you want to put it in the use table.
Lynn?
No, I was just saying, is that definition our definition,
That's our definition.
Michael? Is that our, okay, you might
Yeah.
want to clean up the language and remove retarded.
Yeah,
I would say, and
I
that's-
felt as
While
though I
you're at
needed
it.
to read it verbatim. I stumbled. I
Yeah.
did not want to say it, but
I didn't realize, because when I saw it, I thought, oh my God, when was this written? But yeah, I mean, this was probably written back in the 70s, but it does need to be updated.
well, and then later it uses a little bit more of a friendly term. So it's like,
Do we have any group homes or in town
Yeah.
or anything like that? We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, police are there all the time.
Okay.
So,
They're for, I believe the one group home that I am aware of, it is for adult, they're adults who are mentally challenged, but not like it's behavioral type issues. So,
Denise?
I just wanted to point out in our charter, the last charter review we had, we changed the wording for retarded in the charter. So you might want to look at that wording to replace it in your
Okay.
ordinance.
All right, Warren. Warren, you got your hand up, Warren?
Yes, that definition, we want to check how that is worded in Title 45, the zoning enabling law. That is one of the definitions that towns don't get to change. They,
Okay.
under the definitions in the enabling legislation, it says that if the words aren't defined, the town gets to define them, but the following words have to be defined this way.
okay.
So if the state law changed it, then we can adjust it to that.
All right, we'll look at that.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the council? I mean, we're just that one word dormitory is what's really has us. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that was the only one I had question
that
on.
is, I notes had that as, that we were deleting it the last time we met.
that's what I have.
All right, so we're deleting that. Okay.
okay. Removed completely. Okay. All right, so that's what we'll do there. What other one do we have here, Michael, that we're,
That was it. And then there was just other ones that were future agenda items. So I
wanna
didn't
keep them
know.
on, you want to keep them on the future agenda items or?
I think so. Kind of let's you know, take some time to look into those uses a little bit more detail. And then on the
Okay.
agenda, there was a bunch of stuff that we had then recommended for special use permit. Did you guys, did the board want to talk about those uses tonight at all, or do you want to, you know, dive a little deeper in a future agenda?
Which ones are you referring to specifically, Michael?
Yeah, they're all listed here, but there was airport and heliport. There was discussion about that because that was going to change to private airstrip and private helipad. Brewery and distillery, commercial laundry.
This should be real easy to go through. What does the board feel? I mean, I mean, really, it's a little bit of common sense. And I think if we just move it along real quick, I think we can decide what to do with the half a dozen that we have here, Michael.
Okay.
You know, why don't we just, I mean, seriously, an airport or a helipad, new uses for private airstrip or helipad to be added and permitted by a special use permit. Anytime you put something up for a special use permit, they obviously have to come in front of all the parties involved and the decisions will be made there.
Right, but you have to determine what zone you're going to allow it in. So
Yeah.
is it allowed in an AR with a special use and prohibited everywhere else, or vice versa? And you also have to decide if after you figure out what you want to put in the use table,
Yep.
If you want to include any specific provisions as far as square footage, etc., that would be minimums.
Okay.
Do you want to start with where you think these special permit uses would be allowed and which zones?
Can you specify what uses it would be specifically? Like I know, Anthony, we were concerned more about, maybe a farmer who wants to crop dust. Can we say for specific use for crop dusting or for agricultural use specifically? So private airstrip with the purpose of.
No.
Is that allowed?
So Joanna's saying no.
No, yeah, I mean, you can't say, well, you can have a private airstrip, but only if you're going to do crop dust. I mean, you can attempt to limit it in certain fashions, but you can't say, well, you can have a plane only if you use it for this one like that we want. But it can be private. Private versus commercial is another thing.
I think I don't think it'll happen, but a private airstrip with a special use permit would be okay.
In what zone? Or in all zones?
Well, obviously, it probably would have to be in an agricultural residential zone, somebody who has an awful lot of land in order to do that.
Well, do you want to, but you're not
We'll have to backtrack a little bit and define it, right? Is what you're getting at, Joanna?
Yeah.
We might have to take some time and I'll do some research to see how other towns define that.
I didn't think of that.
Footage in the
If I may,
definition.
on the airports, on the airstrip and the helipads, I did find a parallel category in the existing uses, okay? And that was under public and semi-public uses. We allow a fire station or ambulance barn in all zones except residential senior citizen. And that's on page 6 CD 3823 under zoning.
If it's going to be private, I would just be wary about putting it in any type of category that says public or semi or quasi, because then it gets into, can somebody use it for more than private reasons?
That's why I thought this was so important to try to find a comparable category, simply because we did talk about the fact that there may be a future use or a future request for a helipad that does provide, medical services and or security services. Should someone have a sensitive business like FM Global's non-destructive testing next door in Gloucester?
They have a helipad, Mike?
Yeah, they have a helipad. A lot of, as Anthony pointed out, a lot of our potential desired developers, like people with non-destructive testing, medical laboratory facilities and medical facilities, would probably want a helipad. They may even want to put a helipad someday out at the State Police Training Center, which I'll be surprised if they already don't have one. Simply because if you have an injury, you have a sensitive operation and you have an injury, or you have to have the ability to evacuate, it would be a private heliport, but it would be accessible as part of the business that they do, which in the case of a hospital would be bringing in patients. In the case of law enforcement would be evacuations during an emergency or an accident. So again, it's a thorny issue because of technology, kind of like what we pointed out with the wording in other regulations needs to be updated.
Why don't we just take a look at that, Joanna, and Michael, see but how somebody else has that written. Not that I don't see a whole lot of airports and helipads making their way here to Foster, but if things were to change in close proximity to New York from here at the farthest end of the state, a helicopter wouldn't be way out of the question to make it to New York City back and forth from here.
So I guess we could investigate like definitions for private and for like quasi or, private personal and then maybe private commercial or like corporate private. I mean, I think Michael and I could look into it and see what we could find. But
Yeah,
Anthony, Warren has his hand up.
You can go to the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration website, and they clearly define the location. You know, like you said, you in fact do have to have X number of acres.
Yeah.
Yes, you in fact do have to have setbacks and clearances and so forth. So that would be a good starting point. This is a thorny issue because of the emerging technology regarding aviation. More and more people are using it than ever before. So, and we don't want an airport and we don't want a heliport, but we do realize that, as Anthony pointed out in the beginning, somebody with a lot of money might want it for their personal use, and we might want to attract the business that would use a helipad as part of their business.
Yeah.
Helen just joined at
Yeah.
7:27.
Michael, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if anybody else had this problem, but I clicked on the link that you sent this afternoon, just saying, you know, just making sure everybody had the current link. It was actually, I finally, you know, I've called Mike on the phone, I've emailed you, I've emailed Mike texted Mike to try and find out what was wrong. And I finally realized the link was for the 8/5. It was for the meeting in the beginning of the month. So it kept on saying, oh, you know, the meeting is going to start at 7 o'clock, but then it wouldn't start.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Maybe that was just maybe I crossed information that I sent before. But the current agenda that was posted and everything, just so that should have had the correct link and stuff on it. So I just want to make sure that's all set from a open meeting law point of view.
Ellen, 100 times you'll not do it again in cursor. Okay.
I'm sorry, I clicked on the link that was sent to me this afternoon because that was the one that was the most recent.
Well, I'm sorry, Helen.
And as
Warren, you had something you were on to add?
Okay. I think that in the distinction between commercial and private could be addressed by allowing the use as an accessory to a permitted or especially permitted use.
Yeah.
So that it would not be a primary use. It would be accessory to something that we already allow or we already allow by special use permit. And that avenue would be the best to take to keep the airport/heliport on its own out of the equation.
Okay. You guys put that together, what we obviously need. After that airport, we had a brewery and distillery special use permit.
So what zone? First question is what zone? Where do you want to allow it?
Where as an accessory to a permitted use. It wouldn't be allowed on its own anywhere.
We've moved on
Oh,
now
I'm
to
sorry.
brewery,
All right.
distillery.
No. Okay.
I think Michael and I are going to come back with something.
Yeah.
The brewery and distillery, we put it as a special use permit. I don't think in the commercial area we would need a special use permit for a brewery or a distillery.
Well, right now you do. Or you did right now. It's not allowed at all.
Correct. You allow, I think, like a brew pub or something by special permit.
Yeah, the reference on that one is on 3824, and under restaurants and entertainment, it's under item 6. I'm sorry, item 7. It's called a microbrewery attached to or maintained as part of a restaurant.
Right.
And it's permitted by special use and everything except residential, senior citizen, and metro and municipal.
Right. So that's kind of
doors.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I guess the door's open, and all we have to decide is that okay, or do we need to add make it a little less restrictive.
Well, I think, first of all, microbrewery and a regular brewery they have significant differences, and a distillery also has a difference as well, because they're making alcohol rather than beer, and there are different processes that are involved. And if you attach it to a requirement that it has to be a restaurant, that also then says to a brewery who maybe just wants to, like, they have a bunch of these craft things that are popping up, well, then you have to have a restaurant, and that's going to, maybe some people will not want to do both, or wouldn't be able, or, if it's a startup, can't do both. So I would say for a regular brewery or distillery, again, they're pretty involved, much more so than a micro. You might want to add a whole new use, and you can allow them as of right in commercial, but it's up to you if you want to allow it in a residential area. Let's say, they kind of pop up all over the place.
That's a good point. Yeah, I know Treehouse Brewing was originally in Monroe, Mass, and they ran into a lot of problems there because I think it was in a residential district, and then they had since moved to Charlton, Mass. But anyways, yeah, just an example of something that kind of outgrew its,
Right.
I guess, its spot. But yeah, I think also important to maybe consider, obviously, the difference in a microbrew versus, Anheuser-Busch up in Merrimack, New Hampshire.
And then, I think some breweries just brew. So if they're there brewing, bottling, they don't necessarily always have people coming in and out. Like so if it's in an AR, but they don't have any public, it's just, a couple guys that work there making the beer, bottling it, whatever they're doing, and sending it out. You might,
Well, what about a couple of these vineyards that are here in town?
Those are good.
They're making wine. They're selling wine. They're having
That's
wine.
a winery. I think we're going to get there next.
Right, is that on the thing?
I think it is.
No, it's
No,
not.
it wasn't on it.
I don't remember seeing winery anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
So we should add that too, I would say.
Okay, but we're
I don't
allowing
know
it.
how they're doing that. I don't think they've got any type of.
Well, that's Foster.
Are they
It's
growing the
like-
grapes though? Are they growing it? Are they doing it under the right to farm?
They do grow grapes at the winery, yes.
But I'm not sure if all of the grapes that they.
That's right. It's not
Not
all.
all of them.
It's not all the
Not
grapes
all of
they're
them.
growing. They
But
could
that's-
grow enough grapes for the amount of wine they're producing and selling.
That's the same for most wineries, though.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. But if there's no license for it, which falls under one of the categories that we always have, the no licenses in Foster. If you get to do it with nobody catching you, go right ahead. Might as well just do it. But we'll talk about that later. But the microbreweries, I think, do we want to, in a commercial area, allow a brewery and a distillery in the commercial area? If somebody wants to come in the commercial area and wants to put one up, are we going to be against it? Or are we going to support it?
Commercial area, do you mean general business mixed use?
What's that?
Yes.
Commercial, you mean general business mixed use?
Yeah, I would think we should allow it there.
And then I would just put an MI just in case. I know there's not many places that are MI, but why not?
Okay.
What is MI? I'm sorry.
It's a manufacturing industrial.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got like one spot in town, I think, that's MI.
Yeah.
Is there a specific legal definition between a microbrewery and a brewery?
When you are going to like the Department of Health, there's a difference between, it's something about how they filter the water, the tank. I cannot tell you the definition, but I know that I've had some clients who have done a couple, and they are adamant that there is a big difference.
Okay.
So I couldn't tell you what the difference is.
So are we-
Is that something that we want to research so that we specify, all right, well, it has to be a microbrewery, not just a brewery?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at before. Are we beholden to, Joanna, through the chair, are we beholden to those definitions that you just referenced, or is the town able to come up with their own definitions, like the difference between a microbrewery in and of itself, not necessarily being attached to a restaurant versus, more of a larger scale?
I think we should match our definitions to the definitions that the Department of Health puts out, because that's who is also, they have to get a license from them to
Sure.
actually manufacture. So I would say our definition should mirror those.
Okay.
Can you manufacture in a commercial zone?
Well, right now
If you permit it.
We're calling it manufacturing, but I think it's for brewery and distillery, it's more like cooking.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
a restaurant, sort of.
All right.
Hmm.
So,
All right.
What about in a residential?
I'm wondering, because I have a clue that there are, even for a microbrewery, that they have an issue with what they, the byproduct, what the waste is from brewing and distilling, from grains and hops and things like that. I wonder if there are other towns that have done this, that have dealt with it already and have regulations in place, and that we could learn from what they have come up with.
Sure.
all right, we'll look into that. But I don't have, when I got my still out in the back and I'm making 5,500 gallons of moonshine, the waste isn't that bad. I mean, I have a nice brook at the bottom. I get the fresh water from there.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Long Trail up in Vermont, I think they use their discarded wheat grain, and I think they feed. I think it's fed the cows.
Mhm.
But I'll double check that. But yeah, I don't think from what I know, it might not be that much. Is I don't think that there's that much waste to be like a concerned about from an environmental point of view. But certainly, yeah, we can look that up if other communities have. I'm sure other communities have addressed that. I mean, we got breweries
Yeah, we'll look
everywhere
at that.
these days.
Yeah.
All right.
I would venture to say no in a residential, if that's the question we're dealing with right now, just because we don't know as to how large it'll grow and what traffic it might create an issue for the other residents near the house.
If you did it by special use permit, you could limit and say that it couldn't be open to the public. So that, I mean, you could put limits on it. If you wanted to allow somebody to have something small, maybe.
The thing that happens here in Foster, and we keep forgetting, is Foster being so unique. Some people have hundreds of acres. Okay, they're situated in certain places with 50 acres, 70 acres. My neighbor has 600 acres.
Right.
Okay, so I have 200. So I think we need to not just put it in a box. So the special use permit works out. I mean, somebody comes and we get to look at what they have, and if it meets the criteria, we move it forward. If it doesn't, we don't let them do it. I mean, you just can't say just because, neighbors, I got 5 acres, I got 5 acres. Yes, I understand that I wouldn't want a brewery if I had 5 acres and my neighbor has 5 acres and people driving in and out. But there is so many people with so much land in Foster that we don't want to tie their hands up also. So I think by putting a special use permit almost on anything allows them to come in front of someone and asking us if they're allowed in a case-by-case basis.
Anthony, if I may, just a reminder, when we started this, this is a zoning law now. In other words, when I referenced that page number in zoning,
Yeah,
3824, and I
yeah,
referenced restaurants
yeah.
and entertainment, number 7 is microbrewery.
So we already have that.
And yes, and the only caveat is that it says microbrewery, comma, attached to or maintained as
Right.
part of a restaurant. And that is authorized under special use permit everywhere except residential, senior citizen, or municipality. So pretty much follows in line with what you're saying. It's allowed by special use permit already. It's a microbrewery.
Okay,
maybe we can get around this by doing what Joanne suggested. And that's adding another line item under that in restaurants and entertainment for a distillery and a brewery and a winery, and listing different zones that it's permitted in. But just like the airstrip helipad adder, we're going to have to write something down and then all agree that it does encompass the restrictions that we need, as you said, Anthony, to keep hands free of people who can do these things and prohibit people who cannot do these things.
right.
So we may have to write, I wouldn't object to actually writing some things down to be considered at the next meeting.
Would you mind doing that, Michael?
No, I wouldn't, because it seems like, we're asking Joanne and Mike to do it all. And until we have something to discuss and we're all in agreement that it makes sense.
Okay,
And we don't want to override something that's already in the zoning law, but we do want to add things that should be added and modify things that should be changed based on today's, conditions, as opposed to, starting from scratch. And I was surprised at all the things I found. I don't want to get ahead of it, but I found some things regarding some manufacturing and industrial issues that are already in our zoning. And I also found some things that are contradictory in our zoning. And that may be because of what you said, Anthony. Nobody's looked at this stuff for a while.
Ms. Ryder?
I was just have a question. Historically, it seems in this town, if you have something as a special use permit, it seems understood that you have to grant that. And it has seemed to happen in the past, where if there is a special use permit, the town has to grant it. Is that true?
So they don't have to grant it, but the issue is if it just says special use permit and you do not build in some specific parameters, like if you're going to have a brewery, you need to have X amount of square footage, this drainage, and it's just very vague, and the language is, does it fit into the community? That's too vague, and 9 times out of 10, a denial is not going to be upheld by the court. So it is important when building in special use permit to include language so that you know what the bare minimum requirements would be.
That's good to know. So we should look at that special use permit on some of the ones that we're going to put together, and not leave it so open that it does get approved wicked easy.
Right. And I mean, when it's a use that's not necessarily something that's super offensive and you're using a special use permit to put certain conditions, because you're going to grant it anyways, but you want to make sure that you have the greenery and you have certain things, that those type of things don't necessarily get challenged as much. It's when you start using it to deny uses that you get in trouble. But if your ordinance says you can't have a brewery unless you have a building that's 10,000 square feet and it has to have a fence that's 10 feet high, and somebody comes with an application, doesn't meet your ordinance, well, too bad for them.
Okay.
So.
I like that.
So is Mike going to, so what's happening now?
We're going to get the correct wording on microbrewery and a regular brewery. Mike Carpenter's going to come up with some definitions for us so we can discuss on a future agenda. Correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah, I've already gone through and identified all of the uses from the use table. So what I'll do is just either, when what we're talking about here is not eliminating, in most cases it's adding to an existing use or requiring a special use category for that use. So I will reference with the piece I gave to Mike already. If he forwards that to everybody, they can look at the use table in the existing zoning law and see the reference that most closely identifies with that subject. And for the next meeting, I'll write up a suggested change for the uses that we want to add and the uses that we want to modify. So we'll have a motion to accept the change, and then we can have a discussion and finalize the change and move on. Otherwise, I don't think there's enough time in a normal meeting to
No, you're good.
discuss all these.
I appreciate that, Michael. That's good. Well, let's just see if we can run through these kind of quick. If it looks like it's going to be a little, we'll just move it to the next one. A commercial facility established purpose of storage, processing, and disposal of organic or non-organic waste. We put that at a future agenda item. Can we just eliminate it? I mean, they're going to store or process or dispose of organic and non-organic waste. That just sounds like a whole lot of waste.
I think it used to be prohibited and it got moved to this category. Do we want to put it back in prohibited?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of kicked it around.
Yep.
I think what happened when we've seen the word organic, everybody thinks it's good, but nah, sounds like waste to me.
Okay, so that's going back on prohibited.
Yeah, I guess we will. Warren, you got your hand up.
Yeah. My notes on that from the last meeting were that we were going to retain the prohibition, but reinforce or agri-generated. So, you know, what an agricultural use generates would not be prohibited, but commercial rather than a commercial facility. So it would be a result of another permitted use.
Right, I know what you're saying. I get the gist.
That's my note there was retain for all, reinforce agricultural generated with a question mark to look into.
So, well, in an agricultural, if a guy's got a farm, there's obviously waste involved, and they do what they do. But we don't want a commercial facility coming up here, storing it and producing it and doing whatever they do with it. You know, you can't get mad at the cow farmer.
So I think the way that it's worded, it does what it needs to do.
Okay.
I know, I agree. I mean, because it's pretty clear that it's a commercial facility established for, meaning like that's its sole purpose. So I agree. I think it's fine.
Prohibited.
So we'll prohibit it, correct?
Yeah, Anthony, I think Ms. Ryder she had her hand up.
You up?
Lynn wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say Little Rhodey Egg Farm has to store because of that avian flu or whatever it was that the manure from the chickens was spreading. So they have that big storage facility. And most, well, if you have a lot of animals, horses, cows, and the DEM is involved somehow, they now require you to have a building where you put it instead of just a big manure pile. Once they get involved, because going into the water and all that kind of good stuff. So, that was my only addition.
All right. The next one is a commercial laundry, special use permit.
That's different from a laundromat, as we were discussing last time.
Right. Like if Falvey Linen wanted to come and put something on a commercial space, we would allow it with a special use permit. I mean, they got it down in Situate. They got one of their big facilities down in Situate that they do it. Would we allow it in a commercial area with a special use permit? I don't see why not. It's commercial business, it's taxes, commercial zone.
What zones again? Would you thinking general business and manufacturing again, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think so.
And so it has to have criteria, as Joanna would say, for permission, or permitting it?
Geez, the sound on my computer here is like killing me. I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, I'm getting, my connection is unstable as well.
I'm hosting the meeting and I'm strong, so I think, can everybody hear me okay?
I am able to hear everybody.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna click something. I might lose you. Hello. Okay. Nothing happened. All right. You can still hear me, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So what are we doing with a commercial laundromat?
I thought we were gonna require recycling the water.
That was a car wash.
I thought it was also
So,
laundromat.
We could do that for laundromat as well, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, why not? I mean, is that typically gray water? Is there a lot of chemicals in it? Does anyone have any experience with this? Do we have to be concerned about it?
I don't know.
I
Now,
have no
are we making a decision that we could regret in the future?
you know,
We need to look into it more, which stinks, but
no, better to be safe. Can we check again? Can we check to see whether other towns have?
Yeah, just, the thing is other towns, something like that, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
we don't have sewage. I mean, I don't know how they would pull it off. We don't have, if it's well water, I don't know how they would pull that off. You know, it'd be almost impossible to do something like that, but
so we just eliminate it because of the fear of the well water consumption, or
They would
is that
have
what you're suggesting?
quite the septic system.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. No sewage or plumbing. Lynn, you're muted.
Does a laundry include dry cleaning? Because those chemicals are killers.
Good question.
We did that one last week, Lynn, you missed it. Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
dry
it's
clean-
dry
dry cleaning plants still
not
prohibited.
permitted.
Those are prohibited.
Those are still prohibited.
Yeah, we prohibited it.
Prohibited,
We didn't?
yes.
We did. It's like it's 3 to 4 down on this list.
Okay.
Oh yeah, dry cleaning plant prohibited.
Yep.
Okay, so that again, we're going to look at other towns' regs.
Or are you
Yeah.
suggesting Anthony just prohibiting it?
I don't know that. I mean, unless you're looking at you'd have to look at a town that's similar to ours. But a lot of places, because they have sewer and water, they're probably not going to have this. Maybe somebody could do some research on if there is an actual eco-friendly version, and what we could do is that would be adopted in our definition. So our definition of commercial laundry would be a facility that does and uses blah 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 blah. That, I mean, that's the only, if you really wanted to do it, that would be my only thought, how we could keep it that way. Mike, do you have any other?
Yeah, that we've had to do that in service facilities. The wash water from the shops had to be captured and recycled.
Yeah, Falvey Linen is right on the brook, right on the river there in North Situate, down in, I mean, their plant is right there on a river. And so they're obviously doing it a certain way that, I mean, that's not causing any environmental problems. So
Where is that, Anthony?
Falvey Linen, so it's one of the largest linen laundry cleaning places. It's like in every state, but they're right there in Situate, down in
Just
Hope.
down the street from the old Situate Police Barracks.
Okay.
That's right, across the street, Mike, from there. That's right on the river.
Yeah.
The mill, where that mill building is, it's right on the river. So it's obviously, you know, I would think environmentally friendly.
So
But you know what else?
Probably Situate has got some kind of regs or special use for, you know, for Falvey Linen. So maybe we.
They've been there a long, long time too. So they probably started there. So who knows what happened? But
Yeah, it might be pre-existing.
moving this thing forward, we can just like wherever you guys want to put it. I don't see them coming up here. I see more of a commercial slaughterhouse coming up here than a laundromat. So we want to move the laundromat on, we want to prohibit it, special use permitted in a commercial zone,
Yes, with the caveat that they have to recycle
recycle water
water
and,
in an environmentally compliant way.
there you go, Michael.
So in the GBM zone.
I would think they would have to go get DEM requirements anyway. I would think,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
The next one here is a commercial slaughterhouse.
Okay, we have a current zoning law that references that as well, surprisingly enough.
Wow, you did your homework, huh, Michael?
Yeah, well, this is
You're
serious.
gonna get an A in this class, Mike, I'm telling you.
I didn't mean to get into it tonight, but you know, like you said, Anthony, we might as well sort this out because it's just gonna keep nagging at us.
Right?
And
Where is the commercial slaughterhouse, Mike?
it's in 38-191, the zoning laws on,
Right.
and the CD references 3827, okay?
Is it under
Under two, under
Under-
item 2, industrial use. And
industrial?
it's kind of a vague reference, but it would certainly lead toward what we were thinking about was why don't we allow meat processing in Foster? But in an industrial use of all things, item number 2 states the manufacturer, compounding, processing, or packaging of bakery goods, candy, cosmetics, drugs, food products, excluding meat, fish, yeast, vinegar, and the rendering of fats and oils and other similar operations. So they specifically excluded the slaughterhouse there. And special use permitted all the other things I mentioned in neighborhood commercial, general business mixed use, and permitted it in a manufacturing industrial environment.
Well,
So I'm
they did,
curious
they-
as to why
they
we
did,
have, we have a law that allows us to do all these other things and excludes meat, fish, yeast, vinegar, and the rendering of fats and oils.
Rendering of fats and oils is pretty nasty,
Oh,
But-
yeah, but
but it's interesting that we wouldn't allow the
yeah, it's
meat processing.
well, everything else there is, I'm not sure about cosmetics, drugs, but almost everything else there is like baked goods.
Yeah, well, the food products though that's a pretty broad category. It's another one of those things. It'd be pretty hard to refuse somebody a special use permit.
Lynn?
It's been a great comfort to me and my family.
We have several
Great legacy is to
farmers in
inspire
town who process their own meat and sell it. Do they have to get a special use permit?
That's another one of those Foster things. Excuse me, I'm gonna go get my,
I don't know. And, you know, I mean, because of the food chains and all that, you see them advertised more and more. I just wasn't sure.
I can tell you that because Borders Farm, because we have beef, we are not allowed to sell because you have to have an
But, yeah.
what is it called? EPA, state PM approved facility, which is really hard to come by. A special room with all kinds
Well,
of.
they may not be doing beef cows, but they might be doing chicken. Well, yeah, they're doing chickens at home for sale.
it's supposed to
I'm
be
just curious.
NADA processing. The people with the meat supposedly are having it done other places and then selling it at their house, which I would think would need a license. If
I just didn't know if the town had some designation.
I'm not aware of anything.
Well,
What's
if
the-
they're selling meat that they're raising on their farm, That's a that's being slaughtered for commercial sale. That's pretty simple. If we don't, and we don't have, we have it on a prohibited list.
Well, it is,
I think what we do, we need to figure out why it's on a prohibited list if everybody knows that everybody's doing it.
But I mean, I think that that's something that if you're just talking about somebody who has a farm, that maybe you want to talk about in the accessory uses.
Yeah.
remember that by right, if you produce something on your farm, you can sell it. And
Yeah.
You are regulated by the DEM very strictly if you're selling meat and things like that. But that's not a commercial operation, Mike. Right?
The Little Rhodey Egg Farms is definitely a commercial operation.
I think that falls, that's under agricultural, Mike. It doesn't fall under industrial.
They don't just sell eggs.
And there's I see someone advertising all the time, Bert's Beef or something, Brett's Beef or something beef in town, selling beef. But
I think some of the difference is that they're raising the animals there too. This isn't a place where the animal is coming in to be slaughtered. This is so you're
a slaughterhouse. No, we really get off course there, but we'll get to them another time. But a slaughterhouse in town, is that where we were? Should we? I think we should have a slaughterhouse in town. Commercial one.
It was on our prohibited list, and it is prohibited. It is still prohibited in the use in industrial use in our zoning ordinance. You know, meat, fish, etc. As a commercial thing.
So where are we going with this? Somebody bail me out.
I think that we should leave it alone. I don't think we do want a commercial slaughterhouse in town. I think that's, you know, the commercial part of that that implies this, both scale and, you know, it's not growing something on that site and selling it, you know, under an agricultural use, including Little Rhodey Egg Farms, you know. It's a different scale, and it's a different, and yeah, so I would say that we should leave it prohibited. Take a vote.
Just, maybe it's because I'm just so pro-business. In Johnston, there's a Johnston Slaughterhouse, Johnston Beef. It's in Johnston.
Right.
It's off of Hartford Avenue. It's in the back. And there's a butcher shop in the front where you buy all the fresh meats and stuff. And in the back of it is an NADA slaughterhouse.
It's very, very hard to get one of those NDA slaughterhouses.
Yeah, so if we got it on the books and somebody can go get it approved, that means he's going to build a real nice facility. And maybe we might get lucky. In a commercial area. I don't want to put it in my backyard.
They require a big water line and one hell of a wastewater treatment license.
Yeah, they've got.
Well, then let's just eliminate it. Let's not make it.
They've got sewer and water, Anthony.
Yeah, they probably run into that also, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, okay, next.
Okay, so prohibited still?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess.
Okay.
You want to make fertilizer in town, organic, or fertilizer manufacturer except for organic? So we can make organic.
Can I ask a
Okay,
question?
that's the way it is, right? We're allowing organic.
Can I ask a question?
Good.
Just out of curiosity, didn't we eliminate the storage of waste? Is that similar, or organic waste? Would that be similar to fertilizers? Would those be two separate businesses, one and the same? I'm just curious more than anything. I don't know enough about the process of making fertilizer.
Well, the thing that we prohibited was a commercial facility that
Store.
was established to store, process, or dispose, not necessarily
Manufacture.
manufacture. So maybe they would, but then they would be doing a bunch of other things. So if you wanted to let somebody just manufacture, it would be different.
Okay.
One more time, without the sewer and water facility, I think it would be.
Oh, did we lose
On
Helen?
freezing?
No, I'm just trying to
Oh.
think how to, I don't, not even quite sure what to say about it. I don't know how you could permit it.
A lot of the organic stuff is compost and so forth and so on, and then they bag it. I don't see a problem.
The difference is commercial. What Lynn would like to speak.
No, I just, didn't fertilizer just blow up half of Beirut?
Yep.
Yeah.
No more Beirut. And the composting operations that used to run on Green Hill Road would regularly have fires underground that they couldn't put out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All right, let's go to the then.
So maybe that is also going to stay prohibited.
Yeah, good.
What about organic fertilizer?
That's what we're discussing.
Well, Beirut was not blown up by organic fertilizer. It was ammonium nitrate.
Yeah.
So, and composting isn't fertilizer, it's waste disposal. We have an issue here where the EPA is violating farmers for greenhouse gas emissions, okay? And causing them to process their waste in a whole different way. So any farmers in Foster have, and we do allow, believe it or not, 35 animals per 5 acres. That's a lot of animals. And if you have a dairy farm, you have a lot of waste. We also have a lot of people.
I violate that. I got squirrels for sale, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing that we need to
I got
do,
more than 35 animals on my acre.
we need to maybe think about fertilizer a little differently, because there's two things that are happening. In the interest of ecology, the EPA is going after the landfills for accepting organic waste, and at the same time going after the farmers for producing greenhouse gases. Okay, a dairy farm can rival a small town as far as CO2 emissions. So my thought process again brought me back to our existing zoning laws. And if you go to agricultural uses, you can see that there are lots of descriptions that may be helpful in arriving at a more reasonable definition of processing fertilizer. Because if we do allow raising animals for sale or for sale of the animal products, we have limits on the number of animals. We have a whole Article 6, Section 19 for supplemental regulations, raising crops and forest products, commercial nursery structures, sale of produce raised on premises. We do even say in item 6, a poultry farm with a capacity for more than 10,000 birds
which is but permitted by special use permit.
Yes.
Like I'm not quite sure where you're going with this.
Where I'm going is developing agriculture and the related compliance issues from the regulatory agencies say that farmers have got to figure out what to do with animal waste, because you can't just pile it up, leave it there, and hope nothing happens.
Right, we don't have to regulate that. The DEM regulates that.
Well, the DEM regulates it, but it happens in our town. And if we say we're prohibiting fertilizer manufacturing, and that's a way of getting rid of animal waste, then it should be an accessory use so the farmer can use it. Farmers are using it now. They're, as Anthony said, they're processing and bagging organic fertilizer on their farms because they have to figure out alternate ways of getting rid of the animal waste. They can no longer load up the manure cart and spread it out on the fields.
Well, that's not true.
You know, we claim to be an agricultural community, but there are very few people in town that know anything about agriculture.
Do we even have a farm around here? Like a real farm?
Yeah, Borders Farm.
Which one?
Yeah.
Borders. Borders is the farm.
He's got 10 cows.
We handle what?
How many cows does Borders Farm have?
We have 28.
I'm talking like 200-300 head, like, you know, Texas, like big stuff. Big hat, no cattle, that's what we are. You know? I'm talking big.
Yeah. And we're talking about fertilizer manufacturing and whether it should be allowed or prohibited in our zoning ordinance.
Should be modified to match today's regulatory requirements.
Okay, Lynn, real quick, and then we're gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no. It's just that when you were talking about the storage of waste, organic waste and processing, isn't that basically, I mean, there's a big difference between manure and the powder you go and buy. So, I mean, wasn't that covered under the storage of waste and processing of organic materials?
So, some of that waste,
That's
Lynn,
pretty organic.
it could be all kinds of waste. It could be human waste, it could be whatever.
Not be human waste.
I mean, without getting crazy, but I mean,
Yeah.
they do, I mean, it is there. We're talking about fertilizer, organic fertilizer, which I think Michael said it. I mean, farmers have to do a certain thing. I mean, they're taking, you know, I don't know.
I thought this particular ordinance thing was not talking about organic waste.
That one didn't, but this one specifically says organic waste, doesn't it? I mean,
No.
But I think we were looking at adding that as an exception or a special use.
Yeah.
I see it, except for organic waste. Okay.
But, I mean,
Get rid of the manufacture of the regular one, except for organic.
right.
I just,
Waste. I guess I just don't want to dismiss this out of hand because it's tied in directly because of regulatory requirements and EPA requirements. Everybody wants to reduce greenhouse gases.
Can we move this just down the road and keep?
That's what I'm going to suggest, is that we relook at this instead of saying we're prohibiting fertilizer manufacturing, because what happens with the farmer now is he owns that waste. And he has an obligation under government regulations to process that waste into a safe byproduct, which requires construction and recovery of the harmful gases. So I know nobody understands what a digester is, but a digester does just that, and it is a manufacturing process. The waste is now taken and put into a digester, which produces methane gas. And believe it or not, the farmer generates electricity with engines that use this methane gas to power up his operation. I'm getting a little off track. I'm just trying to make a point But you can't dismiss this out of hand by saying fertilizer manufacturing is prohibited, because that knocks the farmer out of the box who wants 100 head of cattle on a dairy farm. I think we do have a pretty good sized dairy farm on Central Pike.
Well, why don't we talk about an accessory use?
That's what I put down. I put down, if you look at agricultural, agricultural accessory use, and I just read through them on 22.2,
Right.
this should probably be added as an accessory use to help the farmer stay in business and be compliant with the existing regulations. He can no longer have a giant manure pile that he spreads around his fields every year, because he's going to get violated. That's a real issue with the farmer.
All the horse farms now are, believe it or not, selling their manure. Well, the 2-3 horse farms that I was at before, Mike, you would know, they would just pile it up after they cleaned the stall somewhere in the corner of the field. Now they're putting them in dumpsters, and manufacturers of what we're talking of right now are paying the horse bonds XYZ to take it out, because they're making organic fertilizer somewhere, and the horse farmer can't pile it up like he used to. So it's something we'll look at it down the road so we can move forward.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't we just do that?
Does anyone know where one of these plants are? I wouldn't mind. I would volunteer to go visit one and
Let's see how they make it.
possibility. Yeah.
I don't know where they are. I mean, you could look it up.
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
That's the horse farm.
I work in hydraulics, so I'm in and out of plants all the time. So I'll see if I can maybe find one and do some research on that. 'Cause
Okay.
I think it could be a valuable business, like you're saying, especially Mike, with all the farms here. They have a place to, bring the overflow that they can't handle. And then, another thing, there's Fairview Farms over the line in Connecticut. They have tons of cattle there. I think they're 3,000 head over there.
Right.
So I can talk to those guys there to find out what they do.
I'm sure you find them recovering the methane and powering up with it.
Yeah, I'm curious. They come into our shop a lot for stuff, so I can I know a couple of the guys there. I can probably stop by and see
Ask if you can see the digester plant.
Okay.
I'm sure they have one.
Okay. I'll see if I can do some research on that, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
I don't think I want to touch this racetrack one, because it'll probably go on for a while.
We'll come back to it.
We need to determine the use regarding racetracks if allowed by a special use permit.
Okay, so we'll table that for now.
We'll kick that can down the road,
Okay.
and we'll make that a future agenda item. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's everything on this page, Michael. Is there anything else?
Yeah,
And
there's
the-
one more.
Yeah, the next one on the next page is just the car wash, vehicle washing shop.
I didn't see that, but as long as they're recycling their own water and so forth, I don't see why we wouldn't allow it if somebody wanted to put a car wash on the corner of Cucumber Hill and Route 6.
Yes, so the use is a vehicle washing shop, and then in parentheses it says, except where public sewerage disposal is available, and or except where utilizing a water reclaim system. So it, is that to say that if it's currently using a wastewater?
Read that again?
Hey, that doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it in the zoning ordinance rather than reading out of my notes, just so I want to make sure I have that right.
Is that an industrial use?
Okay, no. So yes, the current ordinance prohibits a vehicle washing shop, except if there is a public sewerage disposal,
Yep.
or if the place is using a water reclaim system, meaning that
It's allowed.
it is allowed if
Okay,
if it's public sewer or water reclaim.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That's why it looks so weird.
Okay.
So that's already in the ordinance, so that's all
Yes.
set.
That's good.
Yes.
We
All
don't
right.
have
So leave that as
any-
is.
Well, I mean, I think, so that means that, is it with or without? I think it probably would make more sense if you want to take it off the prohibited and define it as a vehicle and require it to have a special use permit and have one of those two things. Because I think it's pretty unclear the way that it's worded right now. It doesn't really make sense.
So then we should reword it so it makes it nice and easy.
Yes.
Clarify.
And I think, did you want to require it to have a special use permit so you know that it has an appropriate water reclaim system?
Right.
Because right now, who's you know,
Yeah.
who's making sure that it's a proper one?
Yeah, all right, special use permit, sure. Makes sense. I think everything should be special use permit so we know what's going on. Because if we don't know anything that's going on around town. But I think we can do that.
Okay.
So is
So
that, I'm sorry, is that for both like the uses, whereas if it doesn't have wastewater, or is that only if it does have wastewater reclaim?
Only if it does. So I guess what we can do in the definition, when we define it, we should make a definition and then define it as only one that uses one of these two
Yes,
things.
I got you. Okay.
Joanna, are you or Michael going to come up with that for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's E on the agenda. The next one, F, we probably won't get through all of these, but let's just see what we can knock out real quick.
So I think we're good on F. Helen, you had sent me and I had forwarded it around. There was a,
We already voted on that.
Yes, we did.
We voted on that on March 5th, and in the minutes, or March 4th rather, I'm sorry, in our minutes from March 4th, remember I said that there were some things from the minutes that did not, that the minutes weren't right. Did you guys table the minutes from March 5th and from this? Okay. So I'll get that information from Michael when this part of the meeting is over, so I can put it in the minutes. But we passed, Joanna had given us, it was items A through D. And so special use permit with dimensional variance. Joanna had done this for us. It says, in granting a special use permit with the dimensional variance, the zoning board of review shall require evidence to the satisfaction of the following additional standards to be entered into the record of proceedings. Special use permit could not exist without dimensional variance. The approval will not adversely affect the surrounding area and will not have an undesirable impact on abutting properties. Off-street parking and loading areas are adequate for the proposal if applicable, and the approval will not pose a threat to groundwater and or drinking supply. And we voted on that.
you guys
Right.
voted to approve and add that section.
We voted
at the
to
end of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the next step is to just forward that on to town council for a public hearing. So I'll I know they're going to have a public hearing on some of the other items on October 8th, and so we'll work on getting that at a meeting shortly thereafter, or whenever the council would like.
Okay,
So no action needed on that one because you guys already took action.
okay. So where are we at now? Which one did we jump at? That was,
That was F.
okay. G's the zoning ordinance.
I'm going to suggest that we stop. It's almost 8:30. And
It's only halftime of the Celtics game.
how are they doing? And we've done pretty well tonight in terms of we've gotten some things done. And that would leave us allowing the accessory use agricultural structures is really a whole thing. You remember that when we dealt with that the last time, that we had a pretty big audience there of people who were interested in exactly that. Also, I found Jennifer's notes, planner's notes from that meeting, which detailed the zoning ordinance, which regulated it, and she had suggestions for what we could consider changing it to fairly concrete. And so maybe if Michael could forward that to us again.
Helen, are you talking about the March 2nd
Yep.
memorandum? Okay.
That exact same piece of
So
paper.
I think I sent that out last time, but I'll circulate it again ahead of the next meeting.
Yeah, yep,
All
yep.
right.
I've got it too, but that's not going to be a quick thing. And I think people who are interested, we did have quite a big audience. We had the guy who wanted to do the maple syrup shack or whatever you call it as a commercial thing. You remember that, David?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would like to suggest that we table the rest of
Before you take, well, go ahead, George. Sorry, through the chair.
Well, I'm sorry. I was going back to section F because I was kind of not part of that, but I had reviewed that and had some concerns, and I may be too late. I understand that. But when we define in section 2 the visual relationship, and we say it has to be related harmoniously to the terrain and existing buildings in the vicinity, I feel that vague description is going to bite us in the butt. And I use Route 6 as an example. We, I think as an entirety, as a board, have all agree that we need to clean up Route 6. And if a business goes on Route 6 with that definition in it, they can do anything they want. I mean, right now, all we have there is junkyards and solar farms, really. When you drive down Route 6, it's not very appealing. And if we're trying to get the presentation of our town to be more attractive to better businesses, I feel that verbiage could cause problems. And I'll leave it up to you guys on our legal, so to speak, team here. That was one concern I had, having it that vague. Should we come up with more of a defined visual plan?
What was the I don't know what I don't know what you're talking about.
So I have I took notes last time when I was reading it. It says item number 2, I think it's part of section F. You have number 1 is landscaping, number 2 is visual relationship.
No, that is not.
Yeah, I don't know what you're looking at.
Is that something I'm looking at differently here?
You're looking at something different.
I don't know where you are.
I don't either. That's why I was getting confused.
That was in last week's notes. We didn't get to it last week. Or last meeting, I should say.
It's okay.
Right. The only thing I had sent out in relation to this item was that Jennifer's memo, like I said, that March 2nd, 2020 memo.
Yeah.
That had some attachments on it. That was.
Okay. Maybe that's something we're planning on talking about in the future, but me being new, I just didn't realize that.
Find that after and then bring that up, George. And so we know what you're talking about. Exactly.
So what item are you talking about, George?
Oh, I don't know. I've got from last week. Last meeting we never got to it, and I had put it in my pre-meeting notes to discuss it with you guys to see what you thought.
F or G?
He's talking about F, item B.
Item B?
38324F, the notes we got from Helen. Item B says the approval will not adversely affect the surrounding area. It says if you put it on Route 6, if you paint it purple, it's not going to affect the surrounding area.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we need to have more of a definition or a plan on how we want the businesses to look.
But
we don't end up with what we
for
have.
a business. So what you need, that's not just necessarily for a business. That is for. So right now, if you want to do something that requires a special use permit and a dimensional variance, so let's say you want to put some type of accessory dwelling or accessory building on your residential property, but like you're, 2 feet short of the setback, sorry, you can't do it because you need a special use and a dimensional variance. So there's case law that says you need to have an ordinance that allows you to do both. So if you were to apply for something, you'd have to meet all the requirements of the special use permit, all the requirements of the dimensional variance, and then you also have to meet these requirements, so it's like a third test.
Okay.
So this isn't the only, this is like, you have to pass 1 and then 2 and then 3.
Yeah, so it's more restrictive.
Yeah, this is like a third layer.
Okay. So maybe all right, I'll have to see what I'm reading and bring it up next time, because I have notes on, advertising features. We talk about, signage and stuff, special feature development, exterior lighting.
Yeah,
These were part of-
I can put this.
When did we talk about that?
We didn't. It was I thought it was going to be on the last 2 weeks ago, our last meeting on the agenda, but it was. I read all the information that Mike had sent out, and I thought that's what we were going to discuss. So I kind of went through and just highlighted notes on areas that I think are all close and dear to our heart.
Maybe what we're talking about or I just think that's the wrong section. I think maybe it's
Probably.
a view of the GBM, what's in the GBM.
Okay, general business.
Yeah, because this honestly is just, I think there are a few people who wanted to do something, but they specifically could not do it because they needed a dimensional variance and they couldn't do both. And honestly, they could have had this business with, and I honestly think it might have been a residential use that they needed the special use permit, but they were like 3 feet shy. Like, oh, sorry, you can't have both.
All right.
Right. I got a quick question, and then someone will make a motion. Helen's making buttons. Joanna, how many times can we have a moratorium on a certain time? I thought at one meeting you said we can only do it twice.
I think it's an emergency ordinance. So the town, if there is an emergency that persists, it is acceptable. Somebody would have to challenge it, but the charter allows the town to do it. I will say that, and the town needs to have adequate reason for the emergency moratorium to remain in place. It can't just be because they want to continue to prolong it because they don't want whatever it is that there's a moratorium on ever coming to the town. But if there is
the solar farm, we had 3 moratoriums already.
So we can't talk about that specifically unless you make a motion to add it to the agenda, but I will talk in general terms.
Okay.
That if you're using a moratorium to essentially deny every application and it's there indefinitely, no, you can't do it. I'm not sure if I had said 2 or if I alluded to, I don't believe there's any specific number, but based on COVID and what has happened and the fact that it's, for a while there was, nobody was having public meetings and the inability to actually get them underway and make sure everybody has enough, and knowing if it is a very hot button issue that a lot of input and the council or our council would want to make sure that it was an issue that was addressed by all. I think that there would be good cause to say that the moratorium was not being done specifically to keep things out. The bottom line is if somebody challenged it, can you essentially back up your emergency basis?
Okay. Just checking. It's an election year,
So where are we now? We're
at a motion to adjourn.
oh, okay.
Second.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
just before we adjourn, I just wanted to quickly, because we're not going to change the planning board schedule just to hop down to J.
We're just that's gonna be on the next one, Michael.
Okay.
We'll pick it for the next meeting, and then we're still gonna meet once a month
Okay.
until something serious comes in front of us. We just can't have these meetings for an hour a night.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. You just wasted my whole night for 1 hour. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it the next time. We're here. Let's continue, do what we have to do, move forward. If it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, done. I'll see you next month.
Yeah.
But I can't do this for 1 hour at a time.
I was just bringing it up just because
Helen, if you want to excuse yourself after, at any time you can, it won't be a problem. I'm not picking on you, Helen, but I'm picking on you, okay? I'm not gonna do this for, for 40 minutes, an hour, and then say, all right, I gotta go home. I mean, I should have stopped at 6:30 and watched the Celtics tonight and not had it done. But that's what we're gonna do, Michael. We'll continue this meeting. We'll have our scheduled meeting for September, whenever it is.
Yep, the
And-
2nd and the 16th.
And I will definitely meet with you. We'll condense what we're gonna do, and then we'll move forward where we're gonna go.
Okay, we'll talk about it next week. You and me.
You got it.
Okay, that's it.
So Warren, you move to adjourn.
Yeah,
There's
Warren,
no- I don't
second.
need a second on those.
Let's say good night, everyone.
Good night.
And
Good
We need a
night.
vote. You do need a vote.
Yeah, you should probably do roll call vote, right?
Roll call.
Except the time we don't have to.
And check in, so I can check in on minutes that I missed, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All in favor of adjourning?
We need a roll call.
Roll
We
call.
did a roll call.
No,
Okay, I got you. Okay, I got you. David, get back here.
I'm back.
Okay. Warren,
Mike, I'll take
Mike.
it. It's
Aye.
Mike.
Oh, you weren't here, Helen, so I did the roll call. Okay, you do it, Helen. Make it official. Go ahead.
Mike,
Yay.
Warren,
Aye.
yeah, David,
Yes.
George.
Yep.
I agree. Okay, bye, everybody.
All right, everyone.
Good
Have a good
night.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody have a nice night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care, guys.
See you.
Good night, thank you.